How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. How you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm all right. Making out okay with all this?
Uh, yeah, it's a little, I picked a bad year to open a new business in January.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing that a while back that you were opening a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah, we opened on like January 20th, and so we're only like two and a half months in and had to shut down. So
That's tough.
yeah, yeah, but hopefully, we had good traction before we closed. So hopefully we'll be able to come back.
Was like takeout or anything like that like an option for you guys, or not even worth that?
It was. We did just take out for like maybe a week and a half, and it actually was going really well. But I don't know. We just started to feel weird about asking our employees to come to work anymore. Like you could tell some people wanted to, some people didn't. It's like we're not
Yeah,
making enough money to pay our whole staff. So, and there was no way that I have like six managing partners at the business, me and five other people, and there was no way that we could do everything ourselves. So we just shut it down.
what kind of food is it?
It's actually like Americanized Chinese food.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
It feels like something you'd see on like Triple D.
yeah. I haven't watched that show in a while. I lived in California for a while, and I lived kind of close to that guy,
Oh really?
to his original restaurant. Yeah.
Did you ever meet him? I've heard stories about him in the past, as far as like the whole thing is like a gimmick. The hair is like a gimmick. You ever heard anything about him?
Yeah, I don't know. I never actually met him, and my boss in California did not like him. So like I had heard negative things, and then coincidentally, years later, I've seen my old boss on one of his newer TV shows like several times.
Okay.
So I guess they became friends at some point.
Okay. Well, with everything going on, this gives me kind of the opportunity to do these with people who don't live in the area at all. Since everyone's kind of equal now, and no one can actually come over here to my house. Um,
Right, right.
so I thought it was a good opportunity to try and get some time with you, and luckily you had some time. So
For sure, man. I mean, I got nothing but time right now. So, and I've been loving the podcast. So,
oh, thanks, man.
yeah,
I've been doing this now, I guess, like for the past week and a half or so. I've been interviewing people. This is like the bulk of what my time has been now, just doing different interviews and Zooms with people. So
has everybody been local still? Although it's a Zoom, or you getting some other out of
no,
staters?
pretty much everyone's been out of state except for one so far.
Mm-hmm.
I did JP, and he's in Lancaster.
Oh, okay.
So, and then one was in California and one was in Maryland.
What you drinking there?
A little Jack and Ginger.
Nice.
So you're getting me, this is unique. You're getting me a little tuned up. I just came off of a Zoom happy hour with
Okay.
Alicia Conti,
Nice.
Adrian, Leslie Weber, McNitt, Leslie, or not Leslie, Lindsay Barlett, Heather Goodwin.
Nice.
Literally like a half hour ago, I just came from that. So,
Cool.
yeah, they mentioned you. So I told them, I gave them a little bit of a hint, and I said I have to go because I have to get ready to do a podcast with someone I think you guys were like friends with. So, I don't know if they're going to send out a group text or die to know. They think it's Eric Nelson. That's who they assume. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. Was that your crew?
Yeah. I mean, I hung out with Alicia a lot. Lindsay Barley, Leslie Weber is actually my neighbor right across the street from me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She moved in there. I can't remember when she moved there. I had another neighbor that I was friends with that lived in her house. And I feel like Leslie came around sometime in middle school, maybe.
I remember Leslie from summer camp. And then, I feel like 7th grade, she ended up at Wissahickon. And I was like, oh my God, it's a girl from summer camp, because she was tall. And so you don't forget like tall girls like that. And she had a redhead friend, Caitlin. I want to say Caitlin Kelly. Does that sound familiar?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't picture the face.
Well, that'll be for Leslie's podcast, I guess.
Are we recording? Are we live?
We're recording. Yeah, we're live. We're doing it.
Hey, so where do you live exactly? I'm jealous of your posts in the Italian market.
I'm at 9 and Carpenter, so across the street right here is Esposito's. Do you know like any of the shops, any of the butchers or anything like that?
I feel like it's probably changed a lot since I was there. I last lived in the city in 2009.
Okay. Then.
What's that?
I was in Connecticut then.
Oh, okay.
Where were you in the city then?
My first apartment was in Old City, a place called the Chocolate Works. You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
I guess it was an old chocolate factory that turned into an apartment building.
Yeah.
And then my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, moved in with me, and we found another place. We were searching all over the city. And this guy was showing us apartments. And then like at the end of the day, he was like, I don't know if you'd be interested, but I've got a 1-bedroom with a roof deck in Rittenhouse for $900 a month.
Wow.
And I was like, are you serious?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, this is 2009, but still, like, we had a 4th floor walk up on 21st and Spruce with like our own private roof deck for $900 a month.
Rooftop where it's at out here.
Yeah. I loved it there. I mean, I hope to be back in Philly at some point.
I lived at 19 in Fairmount for a year, back maybe like 2012, and had a rooftop there. And that was like the best thing. It's like the only thing missing here is a rooftop at my now.
Yeah, I see you talking about Jim's steaks a lot.
Oh, yeah, I love Jim's.
I love Jim's too, but I feel like that's not a common favorite for people. I feel like you get some hate for saying that.
I don't know.
It's your go-to spot.
I feel like Pat's and Gino's is like the big hate spot, and what's the D'Alessandro's is the one everyone loves. Yeah, D'Alessandro's is like the big favorite, and Jim's is kind of the obscure, got to kind of know it to even know anything about it type of place. But it's not, you have to wait outside in the line around the corner on South Street before you can even get inside when the line's really bad. But they have indoor seating and they sell beer.
Right.
So very different than a Pat's and Gino's and D'Alessandro's even.
Yeah.
Do you have a spot?
I loved Jim's when I was living there. But as far as like growing up around Wissahickon, I think Pudgy's was my spot. Do you remember Pudgy's?
Yeah, we were just talking about that on the Zoom. Pudgy's is the spot.
Pudgy's is great.
Yeah. I'm like, so you call Pudgy's?
Oh yeah. Why? What's the? Am I wrong?
No, I used to argue this with someone. I can't remember who. Someone used to call it Pudgy's, and I used to call it Pudges. And I guess because there's 2 E's in there, but I always call it Pudges. And I hear both. It's like a 50-50 split on what people call it. So it's interesting. I haven't heard that in a while, that you call Pudgy's.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that place. That place and Palermo's are probably my 2 old school, high school memories of food, I would say.
Okay. Palermo's, yeah, right on in Center Square. Yeah. When did you start in Wissahickon the whole time from kindergarten?
No, I was born in New Jersey. And my family moved here in 1990, I want to say, 91.
Okay.
So I started at Bluebell in 2nd grade. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember my mom saying I like just made the cutoff to be in 2nd grade age-wise. So
Yeah,
I'm
do
like
you have like an August birthday or something?
November, and I think Amma might have said something about this. I think me and Amma and maybe I might have been the youngest person in our grade. So
Okay.
I was 17 when I started college. I wasn't even 18.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were like, so what grade then did you actually start Blue Bell? 1990s. That would have been.
I started in second grade.
So
Mr.
you're
Volts.
like six then, actually?
No, I was born in 83. So yeah, so I would have been
So you were seven.
7. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm Yeah, but like getting into high school and everything, I mean, my friends, I like James Eckert and Doug King, 2 of my closest friends, I feel like were on the older side of our grade. So they were like a full year and a half older than me, I think.
Wow. Okay. That explains the full grown beard. Okay. We're getting somewhere here.
Yeah, actually, after you and I were in contact, I found my old yearbooks
Mhm.
and seeing Doug's full goatee in 10th grade
He looks
is
like Brad Pitt in
hilarious to
Fight
me.
Club. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So were they your friends in elementary school when you moved here or
Elementary, well, when I
at
first
Blue
moved
Bell?
here, the first friend I remember having was Dave Carlin, actually, who was in the grade below us.
Okay.
When I moved here, I know I had chicken pox really bad, and he did too. So my parents and his parents just like threw us in a room together, and we're like, "You guys
Really?
are both the chicken pox kids." So he was like the very first person I met in Pennsylvania. Um, and then when I started school, I met Pete Whitaker pretty early on. Um, who else was in my grade school classes? Richie Valiga. Remember
Yeah.
that name at all?
Went out with Kelly Brook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just did a thing with Kelly Brook, and that was like her boyfriend the entire time through middle school and high school.
Did he go to high school with us? Because I
No,
remember middle school.
no,
Okay.
he went to another school, but they stayed a couple through her time in high school until
Okay.
until she left for college. Yeah, I'm a big Rich Faliga historian. So what did you guys? What would you do then as a kid? What were you into growing up?
Like elementary school.
Yeah, just like I was probably getting into like wrestling. I like basketball. I was probably into Ninja Turtles, but I like riding bikes. But what kind of stuff did you like doing as a kid for fun?
Yeah, I think just being outside, causing mayhem. I remember Pete lived on Cathcart Road, like right across from Monco,
Mm-hmm.
and it was back when Monco was kind of like they were doing some kind of expansion way back then or something. So we used to be over there in the construction zone and wander our neighborhoods a lot, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of probably Super Nintendo, it probably was at that point. And then like getting into middle school, like skating became the major part of my life. And I think that's how I met
Really?
a lot of friends, like inline skating and skateboarding.
Yeah. Were you better at one than the other, or did you like one more than the other?
Uh, I was probably better on skates, but I think skateboarding was the cooler of the two sports.
Did you ever? Did you ever? So I used to love roller skating as a kid, but I was never good at rollerblading. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember the movie. I couldn't skateboard at all. Do you remember the movie Airborne?
Yes.
Oh, that was my shit. I remember when that movie came out, I had to get like inline skates because I wanted to try it out, but I just couldn't move like those guys were moving, so I just blew it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was like, at that time, it was huge. I mean, I remember the X Games were so big, inline skating was so big, and now I don't think you could buy a pair of like inline skates somewhere that are for extreme skating, like on ramps and stuff like
Oh,
that.
there's like a difference.
I mean, I still see people rollerblading in my neighborhood, but I don't see people like, grinding on rails or anything like that.
Yes, but skateboards are still a thing, right? Skateboards are still
Skateboards, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So you skateboarded with friends, rollerbladed with friends?
Yeah. So like me, Pete, and then must have been in middle school. I met Doug King and James Eckert and Jay So, and that
Yeah,
was like
J1 So.
yeah, and Ryan Wiesman, and that was like our whole skating crew. Our parents used to take us to this place called Cheapskates.
Where is
It
that?
was like way down, I want to say Bethlehem Pike. There was like a roller skating rink that kids used to have parties at, or an ice skating rink, and it was pretty close to there.
So there's 309 skate all the way up 309. There was Young Skating Rink in Bluebell, right where the library is.
Okay, I'm probably thinking of down 309 then. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't.
But there could have been one before that, because that's when I was kind of out, like middle school through high school. I was out of anything that was a physical activity. I just wasn't interested or knowing anything about it. So
Yeah.
So I was, but like I do know 309 skate was a thing. Like senior year is when I became aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
But Young Skating Rink was where the library was in Bluebell. Young Skating Center, whatever it was called. That was the only other one I knew. But there could have been something in Ambler.
Yeah.
So
We were, I don't know what town that was in, but I remember, I mean, our parents would just like drop us off there, and then we would just get in all kinds of trouble once we were there.
when you got to middle school, did you lose any friends or gain more friends? It's all potted out, so some of it's out of your control because you just don't see kids the entire year. What was your social life like in middle school?
I feel like middle school was like a speed dating kind of round. There was like a lot of meeting a lot of kids, meeting a lot of new kids, like having kind of brief friendships. And then I feel like it really, somewhere between like 8th and 9th grade, really like tightened up and slimmed down for me into like a select few people.
So some stuff like that are the things that I think about still to this day that, like, I don't know, bother me, but makes me curious enough to like do this podcast and talk to people. So for you, did you think about things like that? Like, I was friends with this guy for, like, you call it speed dating, but for friendships. Did you think about those things of like, I was friends with this guy for a month and a half and now we're not friends anymore? Or things like that like register to you then, or is that just reflective?
I think it's just reflective. And honestly, I pulled out, I didn't even know I have my middle school yearbooks here, which I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
And just reading some of the names in there, I was like, oh yeah, we were kind of friends back then. And then I don't really know. I mean, it just like naturally kind of like slimmed down to, I think people started to figure out what their interests were a little bit more as we got into closer to high school.
Yeah. That's something I'm starting to realize a little bit, like with Alicia, and she wrote this whole thing in my yearbook about like how she felt about me as a friend and how great of a person she thought I was. And I remember nothing about Alicia, like as far as friendship or talking to her or me even being nice to her. So to read that, I just go, huh? So I'm starting to learn I don't remember. And even with like Sean McAmin, like I just, until he brought it up, I just don't remember a lot of the relationships as much as I thought I did when I started this podcast.
Right, me too. I listened to your episode with Alicia the other day, and it's funny because she wrote something very long in my 7th grade yearbook too, which I totally didn't remember. I remember that we were friends even at Bluebell, and she lived pretty close to me right over on Evans Road too. But yeah, I have a long note from her basically saying, if I ever get a girlfriend, she'd be happy for me. That was in 7th grade.
When you were, so for you socially then, who did your friends start becoming as a, because I feel like you were part of the cool kid crew, right? Is that like your?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Yeah, I kind of had connections with a lot of those people, but I don't think that I ever felt cool. I feel like being as young as I was, I feel like I was always behind the curve a little bit. Um, I was extremely sarcastic, and I feel like that was kind of like a defense mechanism because I was kind of like more immature than everybody that I knew, I think.
Okay. Makes sense.
But it was like, yeah, I mean, I mainly was hanging out with James and Doug and Pete and Jay, and like we were pretty close with Heather Goodwin and Rena Lewis and Alicia, and then like all of those guys lived in a different neighborhood, and we all had like extended relationships based off the neighborhood we were in, I would say. You know, I used to go to Pete's, and then through Pete, I was friends with James Yu. I used to hang out with Forrest Sellers all the time.
Wow, yeah. Yeah.
He lived right down the street from Pete. And then Doug lived like, well, right next door to Chris Warren, and right down the street from Javier. And then Javier was good friends with George Cortez and Joe Brown. So like we would end up with Joey Blake and George Cortez all the time.
Dude.
I know Javier's been mentioned a lot, and I actually saw him in Miami a couple years ago too. So part of that.
This is exactly how I envision the cool kid crew. This is it. Everyone is like connected with everyone else in some way through someone else, and it's just like accepted. You know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know, like you can go to whoever's house because you're friends with that person's friends with that person. Like the way you just webbed it together like that. That's how I envisioned it.
To me, I always thought that like, I don't know, like Pete Stampone and Amma and Dan Cassidy and like the more, I don't want to say jocks because I don't think any of them really were jocks, but like
soccer, that's like the soccer
heavy
teams,
people
right?
were like, I thought that those were like the cool kids. And yeah, I hung out with them sometimes, like especially at Natalie Cooner's house. She lived right at the end of my street. So I was there at parties that she had and stuff, but I don't think that I had, you know, they had like their own tight knit group. And I always thought that they were like the cool kids. And we were kind of like this weird stoner skater group.
That's interesting. So that's funny how like from the outside then me kind of like stereotyping a larger group. But you living the life that you're living, the way that you look at it is like you're not even a part of that group either. And I'm just kind of basing it off of the fact that I don't hang out with any of you.
I remember being scared of you in high school, man.
What?
Yeah. Like I said, I was like super sarcastic and like really quick with like, I don't think I was mean spirited, but you know, I wouldn't say I was a bully, but I was definitely like, would use my sarcasm to try to, I don't know. I wanted attention. I think I was craving attention.
Yeah, me too.
But I remember, yeah. And I said something to you in like science class in 9th grade or something like that. And you came back with something so quick that I don't know, it like struck me deep. And I was like, oh no, I better not fuck with this guy. He's got my number, you know?
Oh, really? Like I said something.
Yeah. Like you said, cause I would like joke around and, you know, poke people all the time. And, I don't know, you were just one of the guys that like, you were able to combat whatever I said. And I was like, oh no.
See, that makes me happy because I feel like, you know, I was so into comedy growing up and still am, and obviously like talking. But, you know, that's more of my style of combativeness, right? Like jabs at each other. And so when you said you were afraid of me, I go, oh no, what did I do? You know, thinking like maybe I thinking I'm bigger than you. Right. And so I hit you or push you. I'm like, oh no.
No. And I don't even know if you don't remember this. Maybe it didn't even happen. I just remember.
No, it probably did.
I probably said said something rude to you, who knows? I probably made some kind of remark.
And for me, you know, as you're telling the story, I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't have liked that. Like, as you're saying, you're quick and you're sarcastic and thinking, yeah, because the way I described how I perceived your crew, or what I thought your crew was, I wouldn't have taken any type of a joke from you. I would have been like, fuck that. Like, that's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, already establishing now at this point that I was assuming the wrong shit in the first place. So that's where I was still coming from anyway. So I could see me just being a total asshole about it, even if but I think that's a lot of the stuff that I used to do, is I used to try and make jokes with people and you know, butt into stuff and say things about people, trying to get a rise and hoping that people would like get in. And if someone kind of snapped back, I would go, oh, they're not my friend.
We're probably pretty similar. We probably could have had a good little comedy thing going on.
Yes, yeah. So you said like a middle school skateboarder kind of stoner crew. Did you guys party? What did you guys do other than be stoners? Which I know sometimes can take up the whole day, but
for sure. Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time just like outside, cruising around on our skates, on our skateboards. There was a place by Doug's house. Like, you remember where 309 Cinema was?
Mm-hmm.
And across the street from there used to be, I know it's not there anymore, but there was a shopping center. There was a place called like
English Village?
Gino's Pizza in there.
Yeah, where English Village is?
I don't know. Was that English Village?
It's like, it was probably an empty shopping center for a long time. And behind there were condos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I lived when I was first born. My parents lived there till I was like 4. Rachel Kim as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we used to spend time over there when it was like, I think Gino's was the only business that was functioning there. And
right. It was all, wow, yes.
We used to break into every other building there. Like, that was things we would do. There was the businesses that had gone out of business that were empty, and we used to find our way inside of there. And
wow. For those wondering now, it's like where the Iron Hill Brewery, like there's the Iron Hill Brewery in there now and other random shit. But so from the time I lived there, I remember, you know, growing up with like, there was a drugstore in there and everything. But as the years went on, in the late 80s, everything kind of dropped out and it was just abandoned, pretty much everything except for, the pizza place and just kind of the remnants. It's the type of shit you see on YouTube. You go around like scavenging old abandoned shopping centers, and they left it like that for a long time.
They did. Yeah. I mean, I even, my parents, I don't know how they weren't privy to this, but like when I was in younger, like grade school, middle school, I got a tent and we used to like sleep in a tent in my backyard. And it was kind of like, you know, innocent, eating a bunch of candy and like staying up all night in a tent.
Yeah.
But then somehow managed to convince my parents that I was like still into that in like 9th, 10th grade even. And so like me and a buddy or two would like, you know, set up the tent and then like midnight get on our bikes and like go ride our bike to like Bluebell or to that shopping center. I remember drinking a bottle of Southern Comfort inside that shopping center in like 9th or 10th grade inside one of the places. So I don't know. I don't know how I made it out of there without getting killed or arrested or something like that. So.
And just hanging out with friends, drinking, and then you just go back home?
Yeah. Ride the bike back home, wake up in the tent, like everything was normal. I mean, my parents had to know something was going on, but
I mean, that's pretty, I don't know, in the scheme of things, it's pretty innocent.
I suppose.
I don't know. It's like you said, I don't know, I guess it's the type of thing that I think, like you said, you felt you were kind of, I don't know if I can't remember the word you used was immature, but you felt you were a little bit behind kind of your group of friends because you were a little bit younger, but I also felt that way. And so for me, I feel like that's like stuff that I maybe would have done, you know, when I was like 19.
Right. Yeah. I feel like life, I don't know, adulthood came at us fast at Wissahickon. It seemed like once I didn't really realize that until I got to college and was talking to people at college about things I'd done in high school. And I don't know. I think what's that?
They were surprised?
Yeah. I don't know. There was like a lot of trouble and drugs involved in our high school, I would say.
So I kind of contend this, that I always feel, and I think this is part of like me and my complex about the cool kids, is that I didn't party, but I felt like some of this stuff I felt like these things were going on, and between all I had was TV to know about these type of things, but then you would hear these stories about parties and what kids were doing on the weekends, and our school was so small that everyone would kind of talk about the big event and who got in a fight or who got arrested or who was messing with who, and or who cheated on who or whom. And so I always felt like our school was very advanced because it was the type of shit I was like watching on 90210.
For sure. But
some people don't feel that way. Some people feel like very much so like, it was like normal, it was no big deal. But I feel, and maybe this is an immaturity thing from where we were being younger, but I felt, like it was way more advanced and stuff I was at all ready for.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like I was kind of thrown into it. I think all of my close friends had older siblings, including myself. So that was also like a gateway into the slightly like upper class people too. You know, my brother was 2 years older than me. And
Joe?
Yes. And so like, and Pete had a brother, Grant, that was in my brother's grade. I think Doug's sister was in the same grade, Noelle
Okay.
King. James had a brother also up there. And it was so like, we kind of had it in with some older crowd too. And yeah, I feel like it came at me fast. And there was definitely, you know, I wasn't doing like crazy drugs in high school, but that stuff was all around. And I feel like it wasn't like that everywhere. I mean, I remember when I got to college, one of my roommates had talked to me about taking acid. And I was like, oh, I already had those experiences in high school.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, what? What are you talking about? So like those kind of things, I feel like that was, I was probably too young to experience some of those things.
I don't know. I think everyone does them at different ages, and it's not uncommon for people in high school to do that. I think it's a little weirder to do it like at 40 because you've never done it.
Right.
One thing to do it because you know what you're doing, but to try it because you've never done it and then to get into it at 40 is a different thing. Versus, I think it's pretty common as a teenager to try whatever your friends are doing. Was that just your friends are doing it and let's do it? Was it your brother and just all the older brothers, an influence of older guys are doing this, so let's do it?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of all of that. I don't think I ever felt like peer pressured into anything, and I don't think I ever, succumbed to peer pressure, but I think there's definitely an aspect of like wanting to fit in. So I don't know, like, I don't even know how we gained access to those kind of things or how we learned how to find these things. I mean, we used to go to Norristown and like random shady areas, and it felt like The Wire, like just buying weed off of a guy on a corner in Norristown. We did that often, and I don't know how, as like a pimple-faced 15-year-old white kid, how I never got into like some kind of big trouble doing that stuff.
It's so funny you say that. I remember the talk in school about weed and just being so unfamiliar with it. and like the terms of nicks and dimes and the little tiny baggies that used to come in, and just being so unfamiliar with that stuff at all. And then getting to college and trying to act like I knew what anybody was talking about. And I didn't at all. And it probably took me like 4 or 5 years out of high school to really understand what anybody was talking about with all the terminology. I never knew.
Well, I mean, all that stuff was the times are so different. I mean, it's like I'm in Chicago here now. It just got legalized this past year. I have a medical card. It's like I can't remember the last time I was nervous about holding weed in my pocket or something like that. You know what I mean? It just seems like such a normal thing to me. But in high school, it just, it definitely was frowned upon and like definitely was not okay.
When you say that it wasn't, or it was frowned upon, I'm just curious your perception on that. Or
well, for me, first and foremost, my parents were totally straight edge. My dad, like strict, old school Italian. So like they definitely weren't cool with that. And teachers and stuff too. I just think adults in general, but I do think that there were like cliques within our cliques, and I don't think everybody thought that us being high all the time was cool. I don't know. It was maybe a little dirty.
Yeah. When did that all, was that like a middle school thing, or was that just a high school thing, or?
No, that probably started in high school around 9th grade or so. And again, part of that was like, I always got a ride to school with my brother who would pick up his friends, and like, pretty sure I got high before school almost every single day.
As a kid, just being like out of your mind a little bit, hard to deal with, hard to pull together when you're looking at teachers and bright ass fluorescent lights in school. Because I don't have any memory of looking at kids going, "Ooh, that kid's fucked up." That's not something where I didn't recognize it. So was that something you could pull together pretty well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, and I could still say this now for anxiety that I have now, that I think smoking before school helped me sit there, pay attention, shut up, and not be like this annoying loudmouth.
Yeah.
So I don't think I was ever really worried. There was a couple times where like somebody blew up. I remember Rafi Sanchez blew up my spot real bad one time in Mr. Heppy. Was it Mr. Heppy?
Yeah.
In his class.
10th grade history.
Yeah. And Rafi, as soon as I sat down, just would not stop saying how bad it smelled like weed in the classroom. It stinks like weed in here. It stinks like weed. And I'm sitting right in front of him trying to get him to stop saying that. And I think eventually Mr. Heppy sent me to the nurse. He sent me to the nurse. The nurse thought something was wrong with me and took my blood pressure. And my blood pressure was like extremely high. So she assumed I was high. And I told her I was just being the bullshit artist that I was. I just said I was very nervous about the whole situation that was going on. And she let me sit in the nurse's office for that whole period.
Wow.
And then took my blood pressure again at the end, and I was fine. So
that's great.
I don't remember ever being like worried, except for those situations where I almost got caught, because my parents definitely would not have been cool with that.
Right.
But if anything, I think it was helpful for me as far as paying attention goes.
Joe, your only brother?
Joe was my only brother. Yeah. He passed away in 2015.
Yeah. I remember that. I feel like when people talk about it, like I said, I was just on the Zoom, and I can't remember exactly the story because I was drinking, but someone was kind of talking about you and your brother, and I think it was Brianna told a story that was never in the podcast, but I have the clip and I actually pulled it, talking about you and your brother. And it seems like just from what people talked about, you and your brother are kind of mentioned in a tandem as far as people's memories socially. Is that just a few instances, or were you and your brother, he's older, but were you two?
We're really tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was lucky in a way. And now when I look back on it, it's bittersweet, but like my brother wasn't the type of brother of like, pushing his little brother away and being like, get out of here, little brat.
Yeah.
Like he included me in everything he did. So I kind of had a window into all the friends that he had, who I still kind of communicate with a little bit. And yeah, we were really close. So I feel like that. And then I also ended up going to college, the same college as him.
Where was that?
Bloomsburg, with Briannon too.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the same fraternity in college. So it was like, I was with my brother for, a large portion of our life. So I feel like it was amazing. It was great. He was an awesome guy and he was super popular. So it made it easy for me to make friendships without trying. So I feel like I didn't really like learn how to build friendships because of that. Like constantly having somebody like guiding me into situations, I guess.
You mentioned that your friends had older brothers that were friends with your older brother. From a standpoint of like teachers coming into the school, was it a known thing where you like recognize, sometimes it's like, oh, it's the Scodari brothers. You know what I mean? Like, was it anything like that? Or, I don't know, did your brother have a name about him that once you started coming through the ranks after him, people knew you through him, teacher-wise?
Maybe a little bit. I had two older sisters too.
Okay.
And they're a decent amount older than me. My oldest sister, I guess, is about 8 years older than me. So like, to give you an idea, when I played lacrosse in 10th grade, my coach graduated with my sister.
Wow. So did they go to Wissahickon at all by the time you guys had moved here from Jersey?
Yeah.
Out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we moved here, I think my sister was probably starting high school. So they did all of their high school in Wissahickon.
Okay. So did you feel like the family name was known? Like, did you feel like you were part of a Wissahickon dynasty? Like I don't know. Did you have Mr. Lazar?
I did have Mr. Lazar.
No, Mr. Lazar always remembered everybody's brother or sister, or, was it that type of thing with teachers at all?
Yeah, I just think all my siblings were so different. Like my sisters definitely grew up like my parents were way more strict with my sisters than they were with me and my brother. And I think it was just like, different time then. They had all 4 kids before they were 30. Like both of them were under 30 when they had all 4 of us. They were broke in New Jersey. And then I think my dad got a big break before moving to Pennsylvania. So like my sisters lived a very strict life. Like I remember they couldn't watch a PG-13 movie until they were 13. And, and then it got to like my brother and it loosened up a little bit. And then by the time I was a teenager, I think they were like, I can't fucking take this anymore.
Whatever you want to do, dude.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if teachers had like a preconceived notion about what I was going to be like in school. I remember Mr. Lazar freaked out on me my first day of class there. That is a big memory for me. I had bought, do you remember those like vials of ginseng they would sell at gas stations? It would be like a glass jar of ginseng, which was like the equivalent of a Red Bull now.
I remember the Arizona teas with ginseng, but that's the only thing I can remember with ginseng back in the day. And that's going off like my Wawa.
I used to walk to a gas station by me in Exxon, and they had these like ginseng vials, and they just looked like these little tiny glass vials. And I think it was my first day in Mr. Lazar's class, and I had that sitting on my desk. And I don't know if he thought I just had heroin sitting on my desk or something, but he literally freaked the fuck out on me. He came up, he grabbed it, and he said, I'll have you out of this class in a minute and out of this school, kicked out of this school by the end of the day. And then I was like, it's ginseng. I bought it at the gas station. And I think he like took a minute to collect himself. And then I don't even remember him apologizing to me or anything, but he must have thought that I had like a vial of dope over there or something in ninth grade. So that's a big memory I have of him.
That's great. Did you feel any change going from middle school to high school at all for you? Was anything different socially? Same friends still? Doug and Brian Wiesman and Jay Wanso?
Yeah, we were friends for we were friends throughout high school. Yeah, I think like girls became a much bigger thing once we got into high school. And I also think I was behind the curve on that too.
Yeah. So did you date while you were in school?
Yeah, I had a couple of girlfriends. I don't know how I managed to pull it off, but I think 10th grade or so, I was dating Elena Rosenfeld for a while. And then must have been my junior year, I started dating Natalie Paglione. She was a year older than us.
Okay.
Which I have no idea how I met her.
I was going to ask, how does that happen?
I have no idea. The only thing I can think is that Elena was on the cross country team and Natalie was like a big track girl too. But yeah, me and her were pretty close. And then she was a grade above us. Okay. So she went to Penn State as I was starting our senior year. And we were like still kind of dating. And looking back on that now, it's funny to me. Like I went up and visited her a couple times so I was probably like 16 again.
Wow,
this
yeah.
Pimple face little twerp. And meanwhile, she's at like fraternity parties with like, Penn State football players. And, it's so far out of my league at that point. So I think eventually she got rid of me in a kind way.
Was your crew dating? Was your group of friends dating?
Yeah, for the most part, I think they were.
Because for me, like, so none of my friends really like dated at all, and so dating wasn't even like a thing. I didn't even know how to do it. It wasn't anything I knew how to comprehend. Or so I don't know. For you, feeling a little younger for a date. Well, you are a little younger, literally, not just feeling, but for you, for like a date, what is like dating for you in high school like?
I can remember a couple experiences of going to the movies, and it was just like literally just making out in a movie theater during a movie. That was like
you go with like a group? Do you go with a group or just a girl?
No, a group. And there would be like 6, 4 couples all next to each other, just
making out.
God,
see, those are the things. These are the things that I missed out on. Group makeout sessions.
It's not that cool. You didn't out on that much, man.
Do you have a movie from high school?
A movie from high school. I remember going to see Half Baked because there was like 30 of us and we were all smoking a ton of weed outside of the theater. And I don't know how we didn't get in trouble there. So that was like a big high school movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did Pulp Fiction come out when we were in high school?
Yeah, I feel like that was, when did Speed come out? They came out the same year. That might have been 95.
Oh, Speed was a big one.
Yeah.
Point Break was a big.
Point Break was even earlier.
Big one for me. I just watched that the other day to revisit my TV.
Were you a big
collection.
Keanu guy?
No, but for
94.
Some reason,
Pulp Fiction's 94.
Oh, okay.
So that was
for some reason, Point Break really stuck with me. I love that movie so much.
Funny thing about Half Baked is that Neil Brennan, who is Chappelle's writing partner for the majority of of Chappelle's, big part of his career, talks about when they did Half Baked, that ruined their friendship for a little bit, because this is why it's funny you mentioned you loved it, because the movie bombed. It ruined their career for years. They couldn't get work because the movie was deemed horrible by everybody. No one wanted to touch them.
Yeah. Have you watched that award ceremony for Chappelle on Netflix?
The Mark Twain.
Released? Yeah.
I've watched a lot of the YouTube clips that they released a few months back.
You should watch it, because Neil does a lot of talking about that particular.
I've seen it. Yeah, so. I've actually watched a lot of Neil's stuff. I liked his, and I loved the Colin Jost bit with him and Kenan Thompson and Michael Che.
Yeah.
Where he goes, and I'm here to represent Mark Twain. I love that.
I still have Half Baked on VHS. I'm a weird hoarder of old DVDs and things, and that's
dude,
one of the movies I still have on VHS.
I've got 5 movies on VHS here at the house: Forrest Gump, Twister, Jurassic Park, Mighty Ducks.
Okay, Mighty Ducks, a big one.
That might be it.
Do you have a means of watching those VHSs?
I have a TV VCR combo upstairs in the room that I normally podcast in, and I don't ever use it.
That's old school, the TV with the VCR built in.
Yeah, it's about yay wide, about yay deep, and it's a TV VCR combo with a remote control. So I have a lot of wrestling tapes, also being a big wrestling fan. And so for a long time, it was very important to be able to play VHS tapes. And so I've always kept this thing because I can't not have them. But now there's nothing. I never use it. All wrestling stuff is digital now. So they're just paperweights.
What happened with your career with I know you worked for for WWE.
Oh my God!
I talked to you before, because you used to be in Chicago a little bit. So
yeah, I used to pop in there. Basically, I pissed off my boss and embarrassed him in front of the team, and so he just took it as an opportunity to fire me. That was it. It was it was very sudden. I was tired. I disrespected him. It's very wrestling's very mafioso like. It's a weird fraternity. I imagine cooking is not very different. A lot of wacky people, and just kind of knowing where people have been, whom they've worked with, earns a lot of stripes and bonding when you actually meet them.
Yeah, it's kind of a tight-knit group, and kind of working in an industry where the hours are so obscure that you kind of end up forced into only being in contact with people that are in the same industry as you, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that takes kind of years for that to happen. I know, so I went to college, and then I went to culinary school, and then I started cooking, and, it took my family years to realize that, no, I can't have Saturday off to go to a baby shower or whatever. So it's my weekend, in quotes, is Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's when I'm off of work, and which I enjoy, but it's definitely been I've fallen out of touch of many people I went to high school and college with it's just, you get invited to do something on a Saturday 6, 7, 8 times, and then by the 9th or 10th, it's I'm not reaching out to that dude again.
He never comes.
So yeah, exactly.
Did you work in high school?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You work?
My first job, was at I want to say it was a Clemens. It was on, what would that have been? 309?
In Centers. Well, there's one in Springhouse right before you get to 309.
Yeah.
Across from a drugstore. where the Blockbuster went, and they eventually built a Gennardi's over there, or maybe no, they built a Giant over there eventually.
Sure. Yeah, that was the one. So I remember getting my like you had to get like working papers signed at high school, and I was a grocery bagger there. That was my first job, and I kind of mouthed off to my boss there. I don't think I got fired, but I had to. Something happened at school, and I had to stay after school one day to retake a test. And I was 14, and I told my boss at I think it was Clemens.
Yeah, Clemens. Yeah.
I told my boss, I got to be an hour late to work. I got to take this test. And he gave me some line about it was time for me to decide like what was important to me in life. And I was like, dude, I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm going to take the test. And he told me not to come in. I was like, cool.
Oh, that's great.
I won't see you ever again. Like, who does that? What kind of guy does that to a 14-year-old? I'm trying to graduate high school.
You're just in high school. You're 14. You're like a year in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I'm going to skip a test because like, fuck school. I got to bag groceries down at the Clemens.
Don't mess up your future.
So that was my first job. And then right across from 309 Cinema, there was a bagel shop. I want to say Manhattan
Bagel.
Was it Manhattan Bagel?
Still there.
Okay. That shopping center's still there? Is that movie?
Oh, yeah. With the Whole Foods.
Right.
And it was
it used to be Fresh Fields.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese,
TCBY
Pharmacy, which I think is Walgreens now.
Staples,
yes. My brother-in-law worked at that Staples for a long time.
TCBY,
mm-hmm.
Hair Cuttery,
Olive Garden,
Subway.
Yes,
that was the bomb shopping center, baby.
Yes, I could walk
that
to
place
there.
Well.
I don't think kids do this anymore. That was probably like a 2-mile walk for me. But
walk on a two-lane major road.
Sure.
With sidewalks.
We did that all the time. But I worked at that Manhattan Bagel, I think for a year maybe. And then Pete and I both got jobs as soon as I could drive, as delivery drivers at Tony A's.
Yeah.
It was in Bluebell. Right across from Palermo's.
Yeah. I was trying to think because the pizza place that moved into the one by Clemens was Bravo Pizza, I think. I was trying to think, is it Bravo?
Bravo, yeah.
Like, was it Bravo's or Tony A's? But that confirms that Tony A's was in Center Square.
Yeah. So I worked all throughout high school. I know I had like I said, my dad started doing like really well when we moved to Pennsylvania, and people considered me a rich kid. I know my friends would say that, which, I think my dad did well, but my dad also grew up very poor. So like whenever I wanted money for things, it was like, go ahead and go get a job.
Right.
So that was kind of the attitude in my house. And that's not to say I wasn't privileged. I definitely,
sure.
Well, I had a car when I was 16, and
what kind?
My parents, Honda Civic, green Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Stick shift.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm still proud that I'm one of the few remaining people. My car now is still manual. So
drives a 5-speed.
I got a 6-speed now. I've gone up to a Accord.
Okay. My mom had a Honda Civic, and I remember that was like the thing in our era. I feel like the Honda Civic was like the car.
Yeah.
To have. It was compact, it was affordable, had a great stereo system that came with it, and you could also rip everything out of it and make it a sport car.
Right. Yeah. I had thoughts of doing that, and I never did, but I love that car.
Wow. So for you, like, I don't know, being a rich kid, you worked for everything. So for you, like, I don't know, I worked at Wawa. I made $5.15 an hour in high school. Probably got a 25-cent raise every year. And that was enough for me to pay for like stuff with my friends, going to like get desserts or buffalo wings. That's probably where all my money went to. For you, what did you spend your money on in life growing up? Well,
Get
versus
well.
what would your parents take care of? I'm assuming clothes and things like that are what your parents would.
Yeah, my parents took care of like clothes to an extent. Like if I needed clothes, they took care of it, and they, bought me that car. But I worked to kind of pay for stuff that I wanted. I paid for my own gas. I probably spent most of my money on alcohol and weed outside of high school.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I've always been like I wasn't a great student in school, but I think I've always had a very good work ethic, which I think I got from my dad. So I don't know. I've always enjoyed working. Right now is like the hardest time for me. I've been laid off for a little over a month, and I think that's the longest. I haven't held a job since around when I was 15 or 16. Cause I worked all through college and everything. So, that was kind of like beaten into us, not that I was abused or anything, but like, it was like, like you work, you show up to work on time. When you're at work, you work hard, which I always did. But in school, I just didn't give a shit. I did not try hard in school at all, I don't think.
Were your group of friends the same way academically? Were they, you
some
stoner crew. So when you say that, I picture, again, everything is a movie to me. So I picture like the kids in Clueless, right?
yeah.
Right. The skateboard kids in Clueless. So was that your group were all you guys not very educational, or was it just kind of your style?
I think it was kind of my style. I don't know. Pete, I don't know if you remember, but he went to Wissahick in freshman year, and then he got into some trouble and left. And I think he went to New York for a year, and then he finished at Lansdale Catholic, which I imagine was horrible, just knowing Pete. But
we talking Janik or
Whitaker. Doug and James were both, I think, pretty good students. I mean, James did very well in high school.
Yeah.
He ended up going to James Madison University. And so I think, I don't know. Yeah, we weren't like a stereotypical stoner crew of just like nobody caring. I did okay in school. I mean, I was like a B, C student, but I did not put effort in at all.
Did anything feel out of place for you in that way? Like for me, my friends were not very academic. I think they were all into going into the workforce. For you, so for me, like I didn't have anything to compare it to. Anyone that was very academic, I would go, well, that's a nerd. Did you feel out of place with like James and Doug, who you say were like pretty good students? Did you feel like something was off in that way, educationally, academically with them?
I don't think so. No.
Like Ryan talked about, Ryan was friends with like Rishi and some of those guys who were extremely academic. And so he felt a little bit of a push, and other people have talked about feeling like they had like a little bit of a push because socially, I guess what's it like when like James is getting, I'm assuming not B's and C's, and you're getting B's and C's?
I don't think we really talked about it. And it's not like our parents were sharing information about it. Like, my kid's doing this well and your kid's not. So
yeah,
I don't know. And I think like my parents were strict, but I don't think either of my parents ever thought that what you did in high school was going to like affect your life in some grand way. My dad was not a good student. He went to Youngstown State University for like political science or something, and he wasn't a great student and ended up doing well. So I think it was just kind of like, like I said, work ethic was more important and spending time at work. Not that my dad was like, go to your job and don't do your homework, but I don't know. I don't remember my parents ever being like, you need to step it up in school and like, you need to get up to A's or anything like that. I was never like grounded for getting a C.
Did your brother go to school?
College?
Yeah.
Yeah, we both went to Bloomsburg.
So when he leaves, you're in 11th grade once he's a freshman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So once that starts happening, is there any change for you as far as got to do what he's doing? Like now you had older siblings too, but was there any path for you to follow? I'm an only child, so I never really had like ideas as far as here's what you're supposed to do. And all my friends were the oldest brothers of the family. If they had sisters or brothers, they were still the oldest. So I never had like really an example of here are the steps to take for college, or here's what you should achieve or hope to achieve. Did any of that start clicking for you in any way with now the brother who you were pretty social with going away to school?
Like if I started to have a different sense of what I needed to do for myself,
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Now that you're seeing, a guy that you hung out with, your brother that you hung out with versus, an 8-year older sibling. Your brother goes to college. Do you start thinking, gotta make it so I can get there with him, or I have to go to my own college? Does that make sense?
I think I started to think about college more seriously. I mean, I remember studying hard for the SATs and kind of making like a too little, too late kind of push our senior year. And I wasn't like dead set on ending up at the same college as my brother, but I applied to, I don't know. I never really wanted to like get away from home. I wanted to get away, but I wasn't like, I need to be on the other side of the country or the other side of the world or anything like that. So I think I applied to only 3 or 4 schools, all in Pennsylvania, maybe.
Okay.
Shippensburg, Westchester, Bloomsburg, like a couple different state schools.
Those are the most popular ones.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think my mindset changed. I think I started to think more seriously about like, what do I want to do? But honestly, even in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And now I'm going to be 37 this year. And it's like, I kind of feel like I've just started being an adult. You know what I mean? It's like,
got me beat.
College was like college was a wash. And by the end of college, I realized, I was in a business major, and I was kind of always high energy and didn't want to like kind of twitchy, not knowing what I wanted to do, couldn't sit still, probably ADD. And by the time I got to the end of college, like had a lot of cooking jobs in college to get me through college, to pay my bills there. And by the time I finished school, I was like, I don't want to do anything in the business world at all. Like my junior year, I kind of decided that I wanted to go a different route, and I was encouraged to get my degree since I was so close. So I got a degree from Bloomsburg, and then I went, I think, a week after graduation to culinary school in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Wow. So when you're in school, though, at no point are you thinking, what took you to business at Bloomsburg?
Or
was it specifically business at Bloomsburg? Was that like the
business management? I don't know. I probably thought I was following in my dad's footsteps a little bit, getting into the business world a little bit, but then I think towards the end when I was going into culinary school, I thought, all right, well, having a business degree can only help me with wanting to open my own business eventually, which it has. But
that's a great point. Boy, I didn't even make that connection. That's That's an
I
awesome
didn't,
point.
Brad, I didn't make that connection either back then. I'll tell you what. I had no idea what I was doing.
When you're leaving school, or what are your friends doing? Like as I don't know, I guess as school is like kind of wrapping up for you in high school. What are your friends doing? How are you feeling about the transition?
Well, that's what was
You were
weird.
going to Bloomsburg from Wissahickon, so you're not going to not know anybody. There's probably like 8 people at least off the top that are going there, right? That you know.
Right. The big difference for me was just that I started college, I think, like I said, I got accepted as a summer freshman. Like my grades weren't good enough to get in all out, which I think Rhiannon had said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we graduated high school, and then I was in college like a week later. And like I said, I was 17. So a lot of my friends were like getting ready to experience, you know, post graduating high school, summer,
Right.
party time.
You're leaving right after senior week.
No, before.
Wow.
I drove to senior week with Chrissy Benedict from Bloomsburg. So we had already had our first week of classes. Because I kind of remember going to senior week and kind of being like, I've been to like 3 frat parties already, you know? Like, I guess I'll go to senior week.
Sure.
I was super excited
step back
to go
and slum
to
it.
But yeah, I had already been in college before everybody went to senior week. So it was strange. And then the way it worked for me was I was a summer freshman, and then there was a gap. So I wasn't there for the fall semester. So I think I might have even seen you. I took some classes at Montco in fall 2001.
Okay. I was definitely there.
And then I had thought about being a teacher. I have no idea why, but I took a couple of education classes that semester, and then switched to business.
So wait, explain this to me. So you take summer classes at Bloomsburg, but then you come and take first semester at Montco? Or fall semester at Montco?
Yeah, I'm not like, I don't remember exactly, but you had to go to this summer program and you had to do well in order to be accepted, but that was still considered a semester, I guess. So you then either you were summer fall or summer spring, and I was summer spring. So it's like your full school year was summer plus one other semester.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of was.
So you do an accelerated class.
Yeah, I took a couple classes because I thought it was going to get me ahead in college, even though it took me 5 years ultimately to graduate.
Same. But, so you graduated in 06?
Yes.
Yeah, same. So for you, like, you're doing business, what are you working? You're doing work when you're in college too? You're working through college?
Yeah, but I worked at like a sub shop up there for most of the time I was there, just like a sandwich shop.
Yeah. So I always worked at delis. Like I worked at Wawa forever. Through college.
Jealous.
And why?
Because I love, you haven't lived without Wawa for, a decade, which I have.
Yeah, you're right.
Nobody understands what Wawa is.
I feel lucky that I know Wawa from the old school days, back when we used to actually slice the turkey meats, and where it was all prepackaged, and we used to make the pre-mades, and we used to make the wraps, and we made everything back behind the deli. Now, not so much, but I'm lucky, I guess, or I'm jaded because I was there for almost a decade.
Has Wawa fallen off? Can you go on record and tell me what?
Yeah.
The last time I was home, I didn't feel like my sandwich was what I remembered it being.
Yeah. So they've made a lot of changes to their service. So first of all, when I was there, when I first started, we used to make strombolis. They don't do strombolis anymore. Number 2, they make their own bread. And so we used to get Amoroso bread. And not a thing anymore. They bake their own bread like Subway. It looks like Amoroso, but it's not Amoroso. So the bread's a little looser, maybe is the right term. on top of that, so this is actually part of my end of Wawa. One of the things that I did my last year working at Wawa was I transferred after college. I transferred. So I worked at Wawa all through college. I would transfer every semester to the beach and then transfer back either to home or to the city, depending on where I was living when I was in college. And my final year, I transferred to corporate. And one of the things I was doing there, the main thing I was doing at corporate was training SAP for all Wawa. Wawa was basically running on DOS the entire time I was there for their inventory. So like their messaging system was on DOS, their inventory, when you scan like a pack of soda, it doesn't know how much soda is actually in that pack. And it doesn't know when you sell a pack of soda, how much soda came out. When I graduated, they moved basically to a Windows system. They needed to train everyone. So I went around all 5 states at the time. They weren't in Florida yet. I went to all 5 states where Wawa is, and I trained all the employees on how to count product. And this new system could say, when Pepsi brings in 12 packs, it knows there's 12 cans in the soda or in the pack. And if you bring in 5 packs, they know that there's 60 cans. And if you happen to break open one of those packs and put 12 cans in there and you sell 1 can, they still know that you've got 59 cans, regardless of whether you sold the pack or not. So I was training all the stores on learning stuff like that. But one of the things that it did, because it got the inventory right, was it got Wawa's financials right. And so they started learning that people are over scooping when they're making tuna wraps for the night before for the next day. They're making giants, it's shrink. And you know the term from working in food, right? Shrink and waste management, or not waste, loss prevention, like that. And so they were realizing, oh my God, people are putting, we used to slice all the turkey. The turkey had to weigh 0.09 ounces. They're realizing people are overweighing on the turkey, over scooping on the chicken salad, the tuna. And so that is now Wawa is pre-wrapped everything.
Yeah.
The wraps come shipped in a truck the same way the donuts do, the pre-made hoagies, all the stuff that's in that refrigerated case, if you've been in recently, is all shipped there. The turkey now comes in a package that's already separated by weight.
Oh.
Very, very different. We used to slice our own cheese. Only like the American and the provolone came actually in a package. Everything else is Swiss, Munster. We used to slice everything. We used to have Lebanon bologna, liverwurst. Like we had everything. Now Wawa does not have any of that stuff. And anything they have comes completely pre-sliced, pre-weighed. Like there's no way to fuck it up unless you're trying to cheat them.
I may have contributed to that data that got them there. Did George Cortez work with you at the same Wawa?
Yes. So did Doug.
Oh, Doug did too.
Yeah.
Because I remember a couple times, like later in the evening, going to that Wawa, and George actually let me make my own sandwich.
Yeah.
Back there.
That Wawa was super lax. That was the one I was always at. That was the one I worked at the majority of my time there.
Yeah.
I went to maybe junior year, I started leaving, going to other stores. But I kept working. For years, I was always like a sandwich guy, hoagie guy. When did you start to realize you were actually had any talent, skill at cooking?
Man, I don't know. I was always into it. Like I was into the restaurant world, but I don't think I really knew how to cook like classically, I guess you would say, until I went to culinary school. I mean, I did a lot of cooking at home just based off of what we had in our fridge. My mom's pretty good cook.
Yeah.
My dad's okay too, but I just enjoyed doing it. And I don't think I ever thought I had skills. I still don't think I have a ton of skills. I learned a lot in culinary school, and I just enjoy doing it. You kind of have to enjoy doing it. It's not it's not the most rewarding industry, I wouldn't say. So
when did you realize business wasn't going to be it? Did you attempt doing some sort of business thing out of college?
Not really. To be honest with you, I just could not sit still, and I still can't. You know, like thinking about like those 3-hour classes, you know, when you had like only a single class a week and it was 3 hours long. Those were like that felt like solitary confinement to me, sitting in a room for 3 hours with trying to take notes, trying to pay attention. I was not good at it. And at some point in college, I was like, I cannot sit at a desk. I cannot be in a cubicle. I can't just be sitting staring at a computer. It's not going to happen for me. And was a wise decision for me. I mean, I spend, 12 hours a day on my feet and kind of active and engaged with several people. So
Do you panic at that point? Like I think you said it was junior year, you started to kind of realize that, right?
yeah, I don't think I panicked. I think I was in a weird spot. I was dating a girl from college for most of college. And she started to give me a lot of flack for wanting to go to culinary school. And that was odd to me. I actually ended up getting engaged to this girl like right when college ended, and then we broke it off shortly after that. But I don't think it was like, I don't know. I wasn't scared about my future at that point. I just knew that I needed to do something different. And I wasn't ready to just start working at in a random job in the business world.
You make an attempt?
No, I applied for culinary school before I graduated from Bloomsburg, and
That's cool.
All my papers were in, and like I said, I don't even think I went home. I think I went straight from Bloomsburg to New York.
Wow.
Started
just like in
school.
high school.
Yeah.
When we went to Bloomsburg. No time in between.
Mm-hmm.
How was Poughkeepsie?
It was cool. I liked it up there. It was an interesting area. I think I did a lot of partying in college at Bloomsburg. Bloomsburg was like a major party school. So I feel like I experienced all that. And when I went to Poughkeepsie, I got my own apartment off campus, and I kind of just kept to myself and went to school. I focused on school. I did really well. I was good in class. I met my wife there, which was great. But like, I think my attitude just shifted when I got there to like, it's not college anymore. Like I need to start preparing for life. I've lived in Philly. I've lived in California, and now I'm in Chicago. And I would say that it's like.
You were northern, right? You were in Napa, right?
Yeah, we lived in Santa Rosa, which is like part of Sonoma County. So west of Napa Valley. We're like 60 miles north of San Francisco.
Okay.
Me and Ashley, we were living in Philly. We both wanted to travel. So in 2010, we packed up our shit and drove to California. We didn't have a job. We didn't have a place to stay. We took like a 2-week camping road trip and just drove out there. We had a friend who we stayed with for like 2 days, and then found an apartment, and then
the plan was to stay though.
Yeah. We both wanted to live out there. We wanted to travel.
So brave.
We wanted to live out there. So it was awesome. That was great. Like we took old Route 66 down and around, and camped in like 10 different states, and it was great. But getting to California was like, when I started working, everybody had this perception of East Coast people. Like, you're an asshole. You're from the East Coast, right? And it was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm an asshole, but I don't think it's because I'm from the East Coast. But I did kind of quickly realize that like it's very different there. It's very different. Like people are are nice, but it's not just that they're nice. It's like I said, there were people who just wouldn't come to work and be like, I didn't feel like working today. And their bosses would be like, yeah, Johnny didn't feel like working today.
It's all good.
Like, what?
Ah,
This is not how the world works. You know what I mean?
wow.
So that was hard for me, because I feel like people had this perception that I was like this East Coast guy, which I was, asshole or whatever. And it just seemed like people were too nice there.
Yeah.
And my wife is from Detroit, so she had lived with me in Philly for a while. We moved to California. We got tired of like every time my sister had a baby, or like one of our family members had a niece or a nephew, like a baby born, it was like a long flight home from California. Trying to get time off to see family was tough. So we wanted to move back east, but we wanted to be closer to her family. So that's how we ended up in Chicago. We didn't want to live in Detroit. So we basically, same thing. We drove here without a spot to live. I think Ashley's cousin found an apartment for us. So we signed the lease without seeing the apartment, and then just came here.
Was the plan to always work in culinary regardless, where, you know, once you end up there in Chicago?
Yeah.
We'll find something culinary, both of you?
Yeah.
So you met her in Poughkeepsie?
I met her in Poughkeepsie, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then she moved with you specifically to Philly once you were done and graduated?
Yeah, so like I said, I graduated from Bloomsburg, and then I did like an associate's degree at culinary school. And Ashley did like a bachelor's program there. So I finished in 2006, and her and I were kind of like starting a relationship. And I had kind of I moved into Philly, I got a job, I started working there. And then when she finished school in 2008, she just decided to move in with me, and we kind of went from there. So we traveled a lot.
Was that like your first like serious, when you talked about dating in high school, kind of, I don't know, didn't sound very serious about, like you kind of like dated a little bit, but like, so was this like your first like kind of serious relationship? Oh, you were engaged prior, right? So
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, first serious one besides the engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
serious, I guess.
I don't know, man. Dating is weird. Love is weird. The girl I was with in college, I thought we were very close, but until I met my wife now, I don't think I really knew what like a healthy relationship was. Like the girl I was with in college, I thought we loved each other, but we argued quite often, and like I just thought that was normal. Like arguing, yelling, scream, not like nothing abusive, but like yelling at each other a lot, like a lot of jealousy issues for both of us.
Aggressive disagreements.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's like I graduated college, I was only 21, I think. I think I was 21 when I graduated. So I don't know. I just thought that was normal. And then I met Ashley in culinary school and kind of was like, oh, you can actually have a relationship with somebody that's calm, and you actually agree with each other and enjoy each other. And so
that's something I'm starting to realize, is that as people tell me their different stories about, you know, meeting whomever they end up with, everyone's relationship and experience and comfortability is very different. And I think I kind of harp on my comfortability, but when you say like stuff like that, you know, you were kind of in this relationship prior, and it seems like almost you didn't have a grasp on a healthy relationship at that point, even though you were moving forward with stuff. And those are things that I kind of take, and it's like, yeah, that sounds familiar to other stories that I've heard from people in school and outside of school, just in life, that I think like, ah, yeah, I need to chill the fuck out. Like everyone kind of moves at their own pace and finds what they like at the right time.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I think it's different times. I mean, you know, like I said, my parents had 4 kids before they were age 30. And it's like,
Wow.
I think it took me until 30, 31, 32 to be like, this is what makes me happy. This is what I enjoy. Um,
How much did cooking have to play in your, I don't know, enjoyment of the relationship? Yes.
a good amount. I mean, we met in culinary school, so I think we both had a passion for cooking, but we both had a passion for like traveling too. So
It's hard to
I
say that. So what kind of travel? I mean, so you guys obviously picked up everything and moved from Philadelphia to California. But was there other travel around that?
yeah. So we went to California in 2010, I think. And then when we kind of got tired of there, we wanted to come back. We kind of decided we were going to come back to Chicago, but we spent like 8 months in Europe before we came back
Wow.
here, which was awesome.
Where?
We did this thing called woofing. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Woofing.
Like wolf ing?
So it stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And it's like this program you spend, I don't know, $50 to get like access to this catalog of farms across the world that are looking for help. But it's not just
Looking for
farms.
what kind of help? What kind of help?
Like,
What do you mean?
it could be anything. It could be from like, you know, scooping cow shit in a you know,
Wow.
in a barn to like what we did was we found a woman who owned a bed and breakfast in Italy and needed help like with her bed and breakfast. So what the
Like cooking
program
at her
does,
house?
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
what the program does, it like matches you up. You just get a catalog of like people who are looking for help, and then you reach out to those people on your own. It's not like, besides the $50 you pay to get this catalog, it's on you
Mm.
after that. So we
So the
reached out to a
university,
couple people.
no one's reaching out and saying, we're part of this program that you guys are involved in and we're going to move these kids into your house. It is, you've got to actually call and make the connection and say, I would like to come work.
Right. I mean, the host is involved in the program and you're involved in the program, but there's no like documentation. So we wanted to go to Europe and we found a
Wow.
couple different people there. So we spent 8 months. We went and spent a month with a family on an island, southern Italy, called Ischia, which is right near Capri. We spent a month there helping people with a hotel and their garden. The way it works is that these people give you a place to live and give you 3 meals a day. And then, you know, you're not paid for your work. They're just helping you live there. So we spent a month on that island. And then we spent about 6 months with this woman and her husband in Benedello, which is like right outside of Bologna, Italy. She owned a bed and breakfast, and we spent 6 months there cooking at her bed and breakfast, cooking for the guests, cleaning the rooms. They would take us everywhere. They took all their guests on like tours of Parmesan factories, prosciutto factories. So
That's
we were like
awesome.
able to go for free on those tours as part of being like part of their labor force.
I was having a little sopressata.
Nice. There you go. It's fitting. And then part of that trip, we spent, I think, 2 weeks in London and then a month fishing at a salmon fishery in Scotland.
Wow.
And all of that was like, we paid for our, you know, transport transportation, and then the people we stayed with paid for everything else. We just worked.
How long have you been in Chicago to where you started, I guess, going into, I was following your Instagram years ago when you were like posting lots of food stuff, but how long until you actually got into your own business? What was happening there?
So we got to Chicago in 2013, I think. And I started working for a guy at a restaurant in a neighborhood called Pilsen. And I worked for that guy for about a year. He left that restaurant and like took some time to take care of his kids and told me he was going to open his own restaurant eventually, which he did in 2016. So I helped him open a restaurant there with about like 4 or 5 of my old coworkers. And I spent 3.5 years there from like 2016 until 2019. I opened that restaurant. We worked there. Everything went well there. And he offered me a partnership at a new restaurant we were going to open. So me and a good friend of mine through work here were offered partnership at this new restaurant, which we opened January 20th. We opened it. Took like 1.5 years to get it to open. It was a lot of work.
Yeah. What's the opening process like? What do you have to go through that 1.5 years?
It's intense. There's a lot of marketing that goes on for trying to promote the new place. We bought a building that was a restaurant for like 12 years prior. So we had to basically gut it and rebuild it. So then you're dealing with a GC, a general contractor, who's doing a lot of the gutting. And then once the GC's done, you've got to have, your interior designer comes in, and your interior designer is battling with the GC. And I don't know if you've ever, do you own your place there? Do you rent or?
Rent. Yeah, I've been renting this whole time. Yeah. I can't handle the stress of like my AC not working and what that would cost me.
When you own a place, which my wife and I do, you'll see that you're all of those things. But, things go wrong. Things go wrong in the building. The contractor can't get things done. And then people start to blame each other. The GC is blaming the interior designer. The interior designer is blaming the GC. It just gets dragged out. Contracts, permits, getting permits through the city for what you want to get done. It takes time. So
yeah,
and during that time where we're kind of dealing with trying to get everything done, me and my partner, Aaron, the other chef there, are kind of just testing recipes, trying to get the menu in order at the other restaurant we worked at full time. So we spent.
Are you trying out recipes at that place that you're going to bring onto your new menu?
Yeah, basically testing them out just for us to see, and then we would put like an occasional special on the menu at our other restaurant that was promoting the new place. So
Asian fusion, was that a passion? Where did that become a passion for you, or how did that become what this was from your side? Was that something you were into?
A lot of different things. I've always been interested in Asian food, I guess I would say Chinese food, but at restaurants you make family meal every day, which is just, you're making food for the whole staff to eat.
Okay.
So a lot of the food we would make for family meal would be like stir fries, Chinese food. And then I am the only non-Jewish partner in my business. So the other 5 partners all have like this nostalgic thing of growing up eating Chinese food, especially on Christmas, like holidays and stuff like that. So I'm the only non-Jewish guy that's part of like these two things have been kind of like the genesis of what made us open this place.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. So no one's actually Asian in the group.
no, and that's like, 2012, that wouldn't be an issue, but 2020, that's an issue, man.
Yeah.
Cultural appropriation, and
Sure. Wow.
we're not looking to profit off of someone else's culture. It's kind of just, we love cooking this food, we love eating it, and we're just trying to put it out there. So
that's cool. Has it, prior to this happening, it's April, it's the end of April now, so a little over 3 months ago is when you guys really started, I guess, when you guys opened. Prior to that happening, was it going the way you were hoping, working out the way that you wanted it to be? I guess you really only had like a month and change to feel it out.
we had almost 2 months, and it was going very well. It was going really well. So it's like kind of a mind fuck for me. It's, I've worked hard on getting the business to open, and all of us have, and we were having a good amount of success, and we just had to shut it down. So hopefully it picks back up,
Do you want to talk about your brother at all?
Sure.
So he passed in 2015, so 5 years ago. I looked through looking through your Instagram. You post about him, just remembrance of him. Do you want to talk about like how he passed, what it was like for you 5 years ago, what that world was like for you?
Sure. It was a major shock. Obviously, you're not expecting somebody you're close to die all of a sudden. We had just bought this house that me and my wife live in, and we bought it. We kind of signed the papers in December of 2015. And then I remember being in here for, I don't know, a week. And then like 3 days after Christmas, my sister called me and said that my brother's wife had called her and said my brother wasn't feeling well and had turned blue, and they were living in Brooklyn at that point. And so I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I called my sister-in-law, and she was freaking out. There were paramedics in their apartment in Brooklyn, and I ended up on the phone with my brother's neighbor, and we were on the phone for like 10 minutes, and then I guess the paramedics called it, and the neighbor like very crassly told me he didn't make it. He's dead. So that was kind of like, just bought a house here. It was like 3 days after Christmas. And that was the news we got, like he's gone. And it was extremely shocking. Like I said, I was really close to Joe. He was always very good to me. So that's like, I know you were an only child, but this was like, at that point, 30 years of my life where I've had 30 years with this guy all the time. We talk all the time. So he died out of the blue, and we didn't really know what happened. He had some drug problems in the past, and we thought everything was just cool, everything was good. But once we got the autopsy, not until like 3 months later, we realized that he died of a drug overdose. It was opiate overdose, which at that time in Brooklyn, there was like a big problem with people selling counterfeit pills that weren't, it was like Oxycontin that had, what do you call it? What's that other painkiller? It's like way stronger.
Percocet?
No. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it was like
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
Way stronger than Oxy, and and it's cheaper for some reason. So a lot of drug dealers were like, selling fake pills, and I don't know. I'll never know exactly what happened, but I think he thought he was taking something and he was taking something else, and it, had a heart attack instantly on the scene. It was, it's been tough, man. That's been like a tough recovery since then. He was married and his wife was 6 months pregnant with their first child when that happened.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
I remember when it happened. I never told you. I was shocked. Just from, I think I really just connected with you on Facebook when it all happened. And to be honest, I was really sad. I didn't even know how to respond to it. I feel like there's always an obligatory condolences, sending my prayers thing. I just felt a lot of sadness at the time when it happened, and didn't even know how to. I never really talked to you. I never said anything about it, even though, I consider us like Facebook happy birthday friends. That's right. That type of thing. But and so with that comes, the obligatory, I'm so sorry for you. I didn't really know how to respond to it because I felt extra sorrow that I didn't really know how to talk about it with you or say anything when it happened.
No, man. I mean, I don't think there's any appropriate response. I mean, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy to lose a sibling like that. And I mean, for my parents to lose a child, it's tough. It's like, I still have days where I wake up and like think of things like the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and I'll be like, oh man, I got to text Joe about that. And then it's like, I have moments of forgetting that he's gone. And I know you've had death in your life with close friends too. And it's just, it sucks, man. It's not.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Events that happen in the world are the things that with Ray that I think about. I wonder what Ray would think about this, or I wonder what Ray would think about that, or man, if Ray could see this happen. I think about those things as far as like big life moments in the world. I think about it in those type of terms. Like, what would my friends say if you were here to watch this on the news like I'm watching it?
Yeah, it's weird. Do you have dreams with Ray still?
Yeah, and I remember when Ray first passed, my mom said, when your friends pass, you'll always see them as you last saw them, like as they were. So it is weird that when I have dreams about Ray, he's 18.
Right.
And I'm 35 with a full beard, and he was just growing goatees at that age. And but he's always that 18-year-old kid that I see with like the slick back hair and pretty much baby face. And I still have I see him in dreams, and this is weird, but they're always generally 90% of the times they are in I am back from the dead type of dreams, where some miracle has happened and he's back, and it's like a can't take it for granted type of thing. And so I have to fill him in on life over the last 20 years. And that's how I generally 90% of the time probably dream about him, of, hey dude, I'm back, and now we're just going to start picking up being best friends again in the world, and fill me in.
That's funny. I wonder what that is in the brain, because you have a lot more years than me on that. But so my brother died 5 years ago, but a lot of dreams I have with him in it are like, I know he's dead, but I'm talking to him like, you died, you're back now. So there's like this weird, like, I know he's dead in the dream, but he's always still the same age, but we're kind of talking about like, all right, well now you're back from the dead. So that's
exactly it. I know that Ray died, but he's back. something's
Right.
happened that's brought him back, and we're now like, he's like, hey, dude, I'm, and it's always like this weird thing of, I've never gotten this deep into any of this with anyone.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. It's always like, I don't want to pressure him. He's home. It's almost like someone gets home from jail, and it's like, okay, well, he's home. He's back on South Chestnut Street, and it's like, okay, I know he's home, and I want to just hang out with him the whole time. And in the dream, I'm thinking like he's got his mom and his dad and his sister, and I got to give him some time. And so maybe tonight I'll call him and see if he just wants to drive around town with me. Like, you know what I mean? It's a conscious memory that he had died and that he's now back, like you mentioned, and it's trying to adapt to that world and not trying to overwhelm him with, of here's new life, or I just want to hang out with you. It is very conscious, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, like I said, when somebody dies, they stay their age of their death. So it's like I see my brother a lot in dreams at his age. And like I said, in high school, he introduced me to a lot of friends, and then I went to the same college as him. So once he died, I've had like a ton of reflection that's had to happen about like who I am, or it's been difficult, I don't know if you've ever had any therapy over death or anything like that, but it's kind of it's a real mind fuck to deal with those kind of.
I think I never have, and I mean, sadly, I think the show gives me a lot of therapy. I probably should have,
You are like the therapist. You're like our high school therapist now.
Yeah, except sometimes I express things and then someone's like, Brad, that's not how we saw it, and this was this way. So sometimes people give me the therapy, and just talking about it with people is therapeutic. But for me, like, I never like sought therapy about Ray, and I've never really sought therapy about anything. I always try and look at myself as, I don't know, I try to be honest with my character, even if I'm not honest with other people. And that's probably the only form of therapy I've given myself, where I can tell myself that, dude, your head, even if I don't understand it, just to know that, hey, your head was fucked up in this situation. You don't remember this the same way this person remembers it, or you were just completely out of line. I'm able to be honest with myself, even if I'm not honest in that moment with the people that are in those situations. But I've never done therapy over those things. It's probably something that would help me.
Sure. Yeah. I have. Not a ton, but
yeah,
I mean, just dealing with loss and grief and all that. I feel like, I don't know, when we were in high school, maybe that wasn't like such a common thing, but I feel like having some sort of therapy, somebody to talk to is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really talked to anybody. It's funny, I guess. I don't think I ever really talked to anybody about Ray. I probably now more so talk to people about Ray during the podcast.
Sure.
As people remember him, and I'm like surprised just because, like I said, we weren't in like any type of a crew like that. We were a very small clique of friends that were mainly based on proximity to where we lived. But I think when people have memories of him or have other tragic incidents that have happened in their, especially high school life, that I can relate to, that's probably the bulk of where I talk about Ray. Whereas I don't think prior to 20 years before all this, I didn't talk about him much other than with like my mom or Ray's mom or Ray's sister or dad. Like that was about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like our high school has dealt with a lot of death. I mean,
Yeah.
For me, obviously, losing a sibling has been way harder than anything else, but a lot of people have died that we went to high school with, man. And that's, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, it definitely, the majority of people that have come on the show have some sort of connection to somebody that has passed, from even ones that were like shocking to me, like Aram talking about Kiram, and I didn't even realize that he had passed. Alicia talking about Mike DeVidget, who she went to prom with. And then, the obvious ones like Ray, like Bethany. And even, Brad Trout, we were just talking about on the Zoom with Brad Troutman, whom Alicia talked about having a crush on. There's a lot of students in our class, but so for you, you're in Chicago, do you get to, I mean, I know you were coming back to Philly from time to time. I would see you kind of check in on Facebook for games, Eagles games, things like that. But do you get to now, over the last few years, deal with people from Wissahickon, people that we all grew up with? Is that still part of your life on a regular basis, or is it more sporadic now?
It's pretty sporadic. I stay in touch with Pete pretty well. Jay comes here somewhat often. He works in logistics and he comes to Chicago once a year or so. So I see Jay maybe once a year out here. I come home for Eagles games because my dad, when my parents retired, they moved to South Carolina.
Oh.
Moved to South Carolina. My parents' next door neighbor was from Philly, and he had 4 season tickets to the Eagles. He didn't want them. He offered 2 to my dad.
What?
So he keeps 2. My dad bought 2 off of him. So my dad has 2 tickets to the Link every year. So, pre my brother dying, it was like me, my dad, my brother split those up, or we would all try to go to a game. And then my 2 sisters' husbands are also involved in divvying out those tickets. So I come home like twice a year to go to the Link for a game.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I basically fly home. My dad picks me up from the airport. We go to the Link, watch a game, and I go to the airport and I fly back to Chicago.
You get a cheesesteak before?
Sometimes. I try to take my dad out to dinner. There's some good new places in the city. So,
listen, I'm all about people moving to Philly. So if I can entice you in any way to come back to Philly, once it's up, man, the restaurant scene in Philadelphia is bonkers.
I tell you what, I've managed to do well here. I have my own restaurant, which is now closed because of this stupid fucking virus. But I think eventually I'll be back in Philadelphia, and I love it there.
So I don't know, is there anything from all this that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to talk about?
I don't think so. I had some weird stories that I thought of as I was thinking about this podcast over the past couple weeks. It made me think a lot about high school, and I was thinking about things that happened and things I did. And one of them was that I remembered breaking into Wissahickon High School with somebody who you probably remember, Lauren Hilton.
Yeah, I remember Lauren.
And I have no idea why we did this. I couldn't remember if it really happened or not, but I DM'd her on Instagram. I haven't talked to her in years.
Yeah.
The other day I DM'd her and I was like, hey, I feel like I remember us breaking into the high school. And she said, absolutely, you and I did that.
Wow.
And I have no idea why we did that, but I think it was like 10th or 11th grade. It must have been the 11th grade.
Yeah, we had class. I remember having class with you and Lauren Hilton. We had block scheduling together.
Oh, okay.
And we had, so I think it was maybe math. And I can't remember who our math teacher was. And I think it was English with Mr. Curcio.
Curcio Favorite teacher of mine.
Yeah.
Favorite.
But it was block scheduling. We had it in like a half a room, a half a classroom. Yeah, and that's like the only class I truly remember having with you.
Well, I was out with Lauren and we used to hang out, and I don't know what we were doing, but we ended up at high school. And if you're looking at the high school from the front, the back left, there was like a single floor there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but there was like you could get up on the roof from there. And we got up on the roof and the door was open. There was like a door open in there. I have no idea why we were there. I asked her about this the other day and she says, I don't know. I think we were just fucked up and wanted to go to school. And we got into school at like 9:00 at night. We walked into there and just walked around the hallways for like 2 hours.
Okay.
Didn't do anything bad. Didn't steal anything. Didn't cause any ruckus.
Didn't change any grades or anything?
No. Didn't bust into any offices or anything. We just walked in there and roamed around. So that was a weird memory.
That would be cool. I think that would be kind of cool, to be honest.
Yeah, and what's funny is like I feel like I don't know, I was doing bad things in high school, but this particular thing, we just went there and wanted to get in. We wanted to get into the school and just roam the hallways for maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
Did nothing wrong.
All right. That's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
Fine, right? Is that all right?
There's no problems with that.
Breaking into the school?
It's fun. It honestly sounds pretty fun. I would have loved to like roam school at my own free will, knowing that I was doing it at my own free will, you know?
I'm sure we were scared. We didn't do anything wrong in there.
Yeah, what was going to happen? Tyrone going to come get you?
Tyrone. Do you remember what we called Tyrone?
No. What was it?
Our name for Tyrone was 2.5 because he was half of a 5.
Half a 5-0.
Yeah. So I remember a lot of times like skipping homeroom, or we'd go to Costa's for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm 18. Give me Marlboro Light. Are you sure you're 18?
Yeah, sure. Show me your ID. Yeah.
Yes, I'm 18.
Well, Tom, this would be the moment that I normally, if this was in person, I would ask you to sign my yearbook.
Oh, well, how do I?
It's not available. So all I can do.
Oh, look, that's me.
Is show you.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll sign it and I'll mail it to you. Text me your address. I'll send it to you, and then you can
airbrush it on.
Yeah, you can Post-it note it to your book. You know.
When this is all done, you'll have to when you come back to Philly, we'll have to meet up. You'll have to do a signing.
Well, I hope we can. I mean, I try to come home twice a year to see an Eagles game. So
yeah,
you're close enough. I can.
Oh yeah. I
can meet you for a beer or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Hopefully, this is all sometime soon in the future. This lets up.
We'll drink our bleach and we'll be. We'll be good after that.
It's the cure-all. All right. Well, thanks, dude.
Yeah, man. It's really good to talk to you.
You too.